There's something unique about combat athletes and the way they train, the way they cultivate their mentality, particularly if they got into the game at an early age, if they were boxing early on in life or they were wrestling early on in life. There's a lot more jiu-jitsu happening for young athletes now. And every athlete experiences, anxiousness, nervousness, fear, and coaches can feel ill-equipped to get their athletes over that psychological hurdle. So what a number of coaches will do is they will suggest to their athletes that they should get mad, that they should feel anger. And it's an interesting idea because what anger can do that's productive is anger can really diminish fear. Anger triggers a number of emotions that allow you to kind of get into, whatever mode you need to be in and just kind of push those anxieties, shrink them down, just push them off to the side. But think about what people typically do when they're angry. Now let's just step outside of athletics for a moment. When people get in trouble, you're a young person in school, you get in trouble. You're an adult and you get in trouble with a police officer. What do they typically say afterwards? I was mad. I was just angry. It was in the heat of the moment. And we all sort of understand that, and yet a lot of us still feel as though it might be okay to whip ourselves into an angry fervor before we go and fight somebody. But is that really a good idea? If you are angry, do you make your best decisions? Who is generally more successful in the cage, in the ring, on the mat? The person who is taking charge of their own thoughts, the person who has more self-mastery than the other person, because there are infinite variables that you have to overcome. The anxiety of the outcome of the fight, you really want to win, you want to look good, you don't like getting hit, that's uncomfortable. You don't like getting slammed to the mat, that's uncomfortable. So there's a lot of things to legitimately be focused on. But to be feeling anger at the same time, all of those decisions that you have to make, all of those ways that you have to read your opponent, you've clouded your mind. Because anger takes up a disproportionate amount of space in your brain. When you're truly upset, think of the things that you've said in the past that you may wish you could have taken back. Think of the things you may have physically done that cannot be undone because you were angry at the time. Now, is that the way that you want to tactically approach your chosen sport? My guess it isn't. And there's one other aspect of anger that I think is important to address, and that is simply, how is it that you want to live? How is it that you want to engage with the sport? If you love your sport, if you love to box, if you love MMA, if you love grappling, don't you want to experience that in a positive way, in a joyful way, in a way that gives you real satisfaction? Yet if you pursue your sport with the idea that you need to be angry to be successful at your sport, what are you ultimately doing to that relationship? You're clouding it with all of this negativity, with this very powerful and very negative emotion. Anger can be seductive because it's a great way in the very short term to kind of minimize fear, minimize anxiousness. Nobody wants to feel fear and feel afraid because that feels weak. That doesn't feel like we want to feel when we go into our competition. But instead of feeling angry, instead of feeling like you need to pull that off the shelf and wrap yourself up in it, just think about how is it that you want to compete? What types of thoughts do you want to have in your head? Do you want to feel like you're in control? Do you want to feel fast? Do you want to feel strong? You can actually feel those things if you decide to feel those things. So think about the kinds of thoughts that you want to have in your head when you compete and start thinking those thoughts in training, when you're just working out, when you're doing anything. Just start thinking about those powerful thoughts, those positive thoughts, and make those a part of everyday life. And it will make them that much easier to bring with you when you need them most, when it's competition time.